I put Erling Haaland in non-league in Football Manager. If you look here, I put him at Weymouth, and I've done this to see if he can take Weymouth all the way up to the Premier League. Now, if we look at their trajectory for the first few years, it was just up and up and up. 4 title wins in a row, sending them up to the Championship. And looking at Haaland's stats so far, I think he's been the reason for that. But if we look at their first year in the Championship, it's the first year they haven't won a title, and they were actually quite bad, finishing 19th. Obviously, Haaland was still the top scorer in the league, but he only got 26 this year. Something else pretty interesting is that Weymouth have only had one manager during this time, probably because he's won the title every year. Also, coming here and looking at Weymouth's club records, Haaland obviously has the most league goals for a player, and he also got 52 goals in one of his seasons. Interesting though, most goals in a match is still only 3 by him, so he's never scored more than a hat-trick in a game. You would have thought he probably got 4 in at least one of the games in like non-league or something, but no, just 3 is the max for him. Now let's see if Haaland can make that leap from Championship to Premier League with Weymouth. In between us skipping forward here, be sure to subscribe for more FM content. After 7 long years in the Championship, they finally did it and got promoted. If we look at Haaland's record during this time, he had many 30-goal seasons, and probably his best season in the Championship, 33 goals, 8 assists, was enough to see Weymouth win the Championship title. But unfortunately, Haaland's goals wasn't enough to keep them in the division, is what I initially thought when looking at this. But if we actually look at the top goals here, Haaland's not here, and that's a bit peculiar. That kind of stood out to me. But if we go on to Haaland here, he got 10 and 18. But if you look here, he's still got a broken leg. So Haaland, the year they finally got to the Premier League, he broke his leg. And as well as that, being 33 years old, he's actually started to decline quite significantly. Few other things. Weymouth still have had one manager this whole time. And just going back to those club records, Haaland has gone further in making them his. Still yet to score 4 goals in a match though, so one day maybe Haaland. One day. Some other things to mention is that with the money Weymouth have made, they've managed to build a new ground. And also, Haaland is now an icon at the club. Anyway, let's continue forward and see if an aging Haaland can have his last dance and bring Weymouth back to the Premier League. This time it was only another 3 years in the Championship for Weymouth, but they have returned back to the Premier League. If we look here at Erling Haaland, he was getting over 20 goals in all these years, but not quite the 30s he was putting up before. If we come look at his attributes, it's quite clear that he's starting to decline. And I think that is to be expected because he is now 37. But despite being 37 and despite declining, he has still been Premier League top scorer. It wasn't enough to keep Weymouth up, but at 37, he has still won the Golden Boot in the Premier League at one of the worst teams in the league. Of course, Weymouth still have Bobby as their manager, and Haaland has just gone further in cementing a load of his records, but still not scored 4 in a match. And I think that dream might be over at 37. Something else important to mention is that at some point, Erling Haaland's learned how to play attacking mid. Anyway, let's continue forward and see if Haaland can have a last dance in the Premier League. Weymouth were able to go back up, and Haaland could have that last dance. But let's come and look at a 41-year-old Haaland. I don't think he's quite at that top level anymore. If we look at his history, he had a big year getting them back to the Premier League. But since then, I think it's just a bit beyond him. If we look at current ability in the Weymouth side, he's actually now one of the worst players. And I think that concludes the end of Erling Haaland at a non-league team.